All right, everyone, if you could please take your seats, we're going to go ahead and get this show on the road. I would like to call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the West Hollywood Planning Commission this Thursday, April 4th. It is 6:30. Let's see, Pledge of Allegiance. I don't have a lot of people to choose from tonight, so maybe the young woman in the blue jacket, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I'm looking at you. Yeah. May I ask your name? I'm sorry, just for the record. Do you mind sharing it? Ann Golden. Thank you very much. And thank you for being such a willing participant. Secretary David Gillig, would you like to lead us in roll? Would you like to do roll call?
Good evening. Commissioner Hoopengarner?
Present.
Commissioner Erickson?
Present.
Commissioner Buckner?
Here.
Commissioner Bass?
Here.
Commissioner Elchel?
Here.
Vice Chair Carvalero?
Here.
Chair Jones?
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 4 is approval of the agenda. I have a couple of requests for changes due to some recusals we have this evening. One is that I would like to propose that we move our new business item, that's 11A, which is to officially cancel the meeting of Thursday, June 6th, because of Christopher Street West LA Pride 2019, up to consent calendar, unless there are any strenuous objections or not strenuous objections. Would also like to propose that we move item 10C up to the first item. I recognize that that 10A and 10B are continued to a date uncertain, but again, I believe Commissioners Buckner and Altschul need to recuse from that particular item given their proximity to sunset.
That I've moved the agenda.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Buckner, seconded by Commissioner Erickson. And the agenda is approved as amended.
Thank you. Item 5 is approval of the draft minutes for meetings of March 7th and March 21st.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I will be abstaining on the March 21st because I was not present at that meeting.
Thank you very much for calling that out, Sue.
Madam Chair, just a note that I was present at the March 7th meeting but recused from the item.
Thank you.
We have Commissioner Erickson moving, seconded by Chair Jones, and this will be approval of both sets of minutes.
Noting the recusal on the second one. Abstinence.
Right, and the minutes are approved, noting Commissioner Buckner abstaining on the March 21st set of minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6 is public comment. David, do we have any public speakers?
We do. We have one, George Biarski.
All right. So because we typically only allow speakers one opportunity to speak during either the public comments before or after our public hearings, is Mr. Biarski our only public speaker this evening?
He is.
I'm going to make an exception. I'm going to give Mr. Biarski 4 minutes this evening as he had requested a little bit of additional time. So we're going to make the exception. So if you could please come up to the dais and state your name and city of residence, you may begin speaking, Mr. Biarski.
Okay, so I added the speaker. I called him up.
Good evening, Commissioners. George Biarski, resident WeHo. A number of meetings ago, I, under an umbrella, reviews that never were, i.e. reviews that aren't, I raised a couple of topics, and I'd like to talk about the first topic, which is the the raising of the threshold for residential buildings that need to come before the commission for approval from 4 units and up to 7 units and up. I didn't think that there were, I had no way of knowing, but I didn't think there were many such projects. But upon review, it turns out that there are quite a few. And so I'd like to make a number of points. First of all, West Hollywood prizes itself, and I think justifiably so, in terms of the transparency on issues that affect the public. That raising of a threshold was a removal of an item from the table. And basically, for those buildings that fall now within, within the exception, if you want, the process is totally internal and involves, in the end, for approval, 2 to 3 individuals. The urban designer, the project manager, maybe one other chief planner. Anyway, as far as the urban designer is concerned, they were in on the process right from the beginning. It wouldn't have moved forward unless they gave an okay. So it means that for approval or non-approval, they would have to backtrack on themselves. As far as the planning staff, they've seen every possible condition met. So I think that currently for those buildings, this is a phrase I hate, but it's a done deal. There isn't really any idea of approval. Why even have a vote? Just second point going with that is that what's missing is any questioning from outside this internal track. And that questioning comes from the Design Review Committee and people who attend the Design Review Committee, which are basically members of the public. And I think that there are more public comments at the Design Review meetings than there are here before the Commission. And I think it's sort of like a hinge place. You know, the developer comes and listens, you know, going forward. And the third point is the developers themselves. If there is to be commission approval, they act by, according to time and money, and basically money. They want to smooth the path to approval. So they do listen to the comments at the design review meeting. And in general, there used to be community meetings where the developer actually sought comments, and these were not PR meetings. They actually responded to concerns. And a chief example of that.
Mr. Biarski, your 4 minutes are up. I'm sorry. I did give you an extra minute.
You did?
I did.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought I was, okay.
Thank you. David, do we have any other public comments? No. Thank you. Moving on to item 7, Director's Report.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. At the last Planning Commission meeting, the Commission asked that I provide an update on the letter addressed to me and also delivered to the Planning Commission regarding the project at 8650 Melrose Avenue. So I do want to say that the letter does correctly identify the topics that we talked about in our meeting that we had with the West Hollywood West Residents Association. And so we are working at a review of the project. We did ask that the developer provide a survey to identify the heights of the building and the setback. However, they have not done so. We gave them a deadline of today at noon. They didn't meet that, so we actually issued a stop work order today, this afternoon, so that way no work can be done until they submit us that survey, because we want to make sure we get that survey done. Once we have the survey, then we can finish our review, comparing it to the original plans. The letter also included 4 additional questions that are asked, and we'll be happy to respond to those questions as well. So we'll be providing this all in writing to West Hollywood West. Hopefully we can get that done about a week, hopefully after we get the survey, but like I said, we don't have the survey yet. One of the concerns had to do with the noticing for a staff level approved project. So just as the gentleman before me was talking about staff level approvals, we do have on our website a map called Info Map that identifies all the projects that are submitted in real time, and you can get a notice of an application that comes in. So what we are going to try to do is we're going to try to, right now the noticing is based on a radius, a round circle. So we are working with our vendor on that, and we're going to create area that will be outline of West Hollywood West that will include commercial zones around it if that's what West Hollywood West wants. So that way West Hollywood West Residents Association could get an alert for every single project, staff approved, planning commission approved, every type of project in that geographic area. And it would be available to anybody in the city. Anybody around the world could actually log on and say, I want to get a notice in that particular geographic area. So we're doing that so that way the residents and the association can get live information on all those applications.
What's the name of the site again?
It's weho.org, the city site, and then you can type in Info Map.
Info map. Okay,
Info.
great. Thank you.
Right. And you can do it just based on your own residence. So you can type in a request to get alerts based on your residence, and you can set a parameter of how many feet away from your property would you like to get notices. 200 feet, 500 feet, but it's a circle. And so West Hollywood West is not a circle. And so that's why we're trying to create something specific that would get the geographic area that they would want to be included. So that's one thing we're doing. Another thing, we've kind of talked about it here at the Planning Commission before, but we're going to try to work a little bit better on coming up with a standard condition that we can put in projects going forward that would almost like a historic preservation idea that talks about character defining features. Maybe we can identify what are the character defining features of a project that are really important, not just this material, but this design feature. And that way we have that identified as these are the character defining features. And so that way both the developer and staff and everybody knows those are character defining, and you could always change them, but it would require coming back to a hearing. So we're trying to work on some language in that area. So that's how we're responding to this. And like I said, as soon as we get that survey, we will make sure it's all built within code requirements and then provide a written response to WeHo West.
Great. Any questions for Director Kehoe?
I was the one that brought forth the response to the letter, so I just want to say thank you for doing that. And clearly there's something going on if we issued a deadline by noon and they haven't met it yet. And I think it's really important to our neighbors in West Hollywood West. And I'm glad to see the info map being pushed out in the way that we're addressing these concerns. And it's a helpful tool, so thank you.
Thank you. Item 8 is items from commissioners. Commissioner Bass.
Yeah, I want to keep with the theme of staff level approval and noticing, and I asked David to put a picture up here. I took this picture when I was walking my dogs the other morning of a property in my neighborhood that is being approved at the staff level. And I just want to raise it for staff because I'm concerned with the way it's laid out here, in that it says the applicant's information, and Margaret Taylor's great. She's very responsive, so this isn't about her at all, but the design of this, it says comments immediately under her name. This implies to me that all the comments that the public would be making would go to Margaret Taylor. And I recognize that Tony's information is in blue over on the left, and I would know to go to his email address, but I would think that most people in the public would see this white box and would go to the information immediately next to the word comments to provide their comments. And I think that's a problem because I think the city should be seeing those comments. So my show and tell is that I think this sign needs to be redesigned for future staff level approvals.
Was just taking a note, I'm sorry. Commissioner Erickson.
Keeping along with staff has prepared a very diligent month of poetry for us in April. So April is Poetry Month. I'm that commissioner that talks about all the stuff that goes on in the city. So there's something going on every single day, I think, again. And the programming done by our Arts and Cultural Division is superb. And I would hope everyone would be able to go out to one of the mini programs throughout the month of April for Poetry Month, because you don't get that in a lot of places. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoopengarner.
Yes, I have a question of staff about the reason for the continuance on item 10B.
That item was continued to allow for additional analysis of properties that might fall into the policy recommendations and to have a more detailed map available for the commission. We thought that would be important information and was worth a continuance for that reason.
So when do you anticipate that coming back? Because that's kind of been around a long time now.
We are, it's been back and forth a few times, yes. We are anticipating bringing that back to the commission in late May.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioner comments at this time? No. All right. Moving along to consent calendar. Again, just to reiterate, we've moved item 11A into consent. The meeting that's currently scheduled for Thursday, June 6th will be canceled. That is due to Christopher Street West, LA Pride 2019, which I think we're all looking very much forward to. So then moving along to public hearings, again, we bumped 10C up to first so that our fellow commissioners, go ahead, Commissioner Altschul.
Living within 500 feet of the Sunset Strip and the Sunset Specific Plan, I'm going to recuse myself.
And Madam Chair, that same reason, I will need to recuse myself from hearing this particular item.
Great, thank you. And do you, just to be clear, are you coming back or are you leaving?
We're leaving.
You're leaving, okay.
Yeah, I think there's nothing really left that we need to
Certainly.
be here for. Is that
You are
correct?
welcome back after the item if you like. You're
Okay,
always
well,
welcome
thank
here.
you. Good rest of the meeting. We'll
Thanks
be
very much.
listening.
We'll just take a moment for the commissioners to exit the auditorium before we continue. All right. So item 10C is the Sunset Specific Plan amendment that is proposed to modify rear setback requirements, and I would like to turn this over to Brian Eck, our senior planner, on this for his presentation.
And I just wanted to take a moment to welcome Brian Eck, who is a relatively new senior planner with a long-range division, since this is his first presentation to the Planning Commission.
Oh, well, welcome. I guess I had seen you at long range, but welcome.
Yes, evening commissioners, Brian Eck. The item before you is a proposed amendment to the Sunset Specific Plan. The specific plan generally applies to all the city's parcels that front onto Sunset Boulevard, in addition to a few parcels just off Sunset along Holloway Drive and Alta Loma Road. The amendment would increase the required rear yard setbacks where commercially zoned parcels abut residential parcels from 5 feet to 10 feet, and would apply to approximately 100 parcels. The item was directed to staff by the City Council, and the objectives to reduce the potential impacts of new development on neighboring residential uses and to increase the opportunities for landscaping within increased setback areas. The proposed amendment would make the rear setback requirements within the Sunset Specific Plan align with a citywide standard. And that is my report.
Is that the entirety of your presentation, Mr. Eck?
That is, yes.
I am unduly impressed.
We're here for your questions.
Thank you. Now. We like long presentations too, just not as much. All right, do we have any questions from commissioners for staff at this time as regards to this item? Any at all? Before we move into any public comment?
I think I just would make the note that Long Range did meet on this, and I believe we were in agreement in supporting staff's recommendation. And just as a point of information, we like to see that in the staff report, how Long Range voted. we don't vote, but how we recommend it, if you will.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, we don't have any disclosures. It's not germane to the subject at hand, I don't think anyway. Something's going on that I should know about. So we will go ahead and move into public comment. David, do we have any public speakers?
We do. We have one. Dimitri Kamani?
Great. Again, if you want to give comment on this particular item, you'll need to fill out a speaker slip here and turn it into Secretary Gillig. And when you come up to the podium, please do state your name and city of residence for the record. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dimitri Kermani, and I'm representing 1022 Palm Avenue, as well as the corner of Palm and Holloway Drive. The only request that I'm making of the commission is a consideration that if a majority of a property that lays within the boundaries of the Sunset Specific Plan is eligible for residential use, that these specific setbacks are limited only to commercial. In that we have a property that allows for mixed use, where commercial would be on the bottom floor. However, if we were to develop residential units, it would make for the majority of the building, almost 4 times the amount of the commercial portion. And so we simply ask that you limit the scope of the modifications within the Sunset Specific Plan to those that are solely commercial buildings and not a mixed-use building that includes residential. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last speaker will be Ann Goldman.
Ann Goldman, again, thank you for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance earlier. Just please state your name and city of residence for the record.
My name is Ann Goldman, and this is my first Planning Commission meeting. I've retired recently, so I want to become more active in my community. And I wanted to thank you for increasing the buffer zone as I understand the rule, and which the staff explained to me before the meeting. I came because I thought you were reducing it, because a lot of us who've been residents for multiple decades are very concerned about the corridor that's being created on Sunset. It's turning into Wilshire Corridor. And when I hear that real efforts are being made to buffer our neighborhoods by giving us more space and considering the residents who are the heart of our city, I'm very grateful. And I just wanted to come up and thank you for that consideration. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public speakers at this time, David?
No, that was our last public speaker.
Great. And with that, I will close the public hearing and we can move into deliberation. Would anyone like to go first? You're giving me that smile, Commissioner Erickson. Are you sure?
I'll move the item if there's no one speaking on it, I'll move the item as presented by staff.
Moved by Commissioner Bass, seconded by Commissioner Hoopengarner.
I think we can go ahead and call the question on this. Unless anybody, Commissioner Caballero, do you have any comments about this? No?
And the motion carries, noting Commissioner Elchel and Commissioner Buckner both recused.
Great, thank you. I'm just making a note that Sue and John were recused. So again, items 10A and B on your agendas, which actually would be B and C on the revised agenda, the ZTA for projects spanning commercial and residential districts, and the general plan amendment for earthquake fault zones map are being continued to a date uncertain. So we will hear those at a later date. Item 11A, new business, that was on consent. Item 12, unfinished business, there is none. Item 13, excluded consent calendar, there is none. Item 14A, items from staff, planning manager's update.
Not tonight, thank you.
Great, thank you. Item 15, public comment.
We actually have one, George Biorski.
But George Biorski already spoke during the first public comment.
You're right, I thought you were giving him another one.
Oh, no, I was just
okay.
giving him 4 minutes at the initial.
Okay, then we have no other public speakers.
Okay, great, thank you. Item 16, any further items from commissioners?
I would just like to report back that Ms. Jones's birthday is on the 2nd of May.
Thank you,
from the
Joan.
last meeting. I promised the public I would do so, and I would just like that as a part of the official record.
Great.
And cake at the subsequent meeting would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Hopefully I'm in town for that meeting. No comment. All right. Well, with that, I am treating you to what remains of daylight, and I will adjourn this meeting. We will adjourn to a regularly scheduled meeting here on Thursday, April 18th at 6:30 p.m. and look forward to seeing you here. Thank you again for coming out this evening.